Do you want to tell us what is the wage gap?
Well, it's where
What is the wage gap? It's the gap in wages.
women are being paid less.
For what?
Working?
For work.
First off, it's been illegal to pay women less for the same job since 1963.
Just because it's illegal to pay women less for the same job doesn't mean bosses haven't been trying to do it. I mean, Lilly Ledbetter versus Goodyear Tire happened. And the only reason that she lost her suit is because you had an activist conservative Supreme Court, ruling by Alito, who is the king of horrible rulings on the Supreme Court, decided that people had to be psychic in order to determine that they were being paid an unfair wage. And we're just going to ignore the 90 seconds thing on Blog Talk Radio because we're just going to continue going on. So, but yeah, Alito decided that in order for you to bring a lawsuit against your employer for paying you a discriminatory wage, that you have to be psychic on the first point that they paid you an unfair wage, even though, as RBG pointed out in her dissent, there was already a time and a ruling in a previous Supreme Court precedent that said that each payment of a discriminatory wage reset the clock. But Alito didn't care about that previous Supreme Court precedent. Stare decisis be damned. He was going to go against previous stare decisis, a previous Supreme Court precedent, and he was going to require that Lilly Ledbetter be psychic to be able to bring a lawsuit against her employer, against Goodyear Tire, to say that she was being paid a discriminatory wage. So that's why they had to pass the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act in order to make sure that people could bring a lawsuit against their employer when they found out that they were being paid a discriminatory wage instead of having to be psychic about it. So while it's been illegal to be paid a discriminatory wage, that doesn't mean that employers haven't been doing so. And even still, that even if you have the case where somebody who has an equal two people who have the same experience who might be different genders or getting paid different wages, that's illegal. You still have overall the wage gap as a general rule. So, and it's hard to rule against to make lawsuits against that in the aggregate. In the aggregate, it still happens overall. And I'm sure he's going to bring up the idea that in some professions that women get paid more than men, but that's only because in those professions they're viewed as being women's jobs, and therefore it's still upholding patriarchal ideas of what women should do and what men should do.
If it is so prevalent, you would see more people getting fined, sued, and companies shut down.
No, because you have a Supreme Court like we had that defend companies who do so, because for such a long time it's hard to prove. Because not only did you have to be psychic, like Alito required, you have companies who made you feel like you were somehow breaking some sort of unspoken rule, or even a spoken rule, that you were not allowed to discuss wages, what wage you were making with your fellow employees. You were somehow being a bad employee if you told your fellow coworker, "Hey, I make this much money. How much do you make?" And that you were somehow a bad employee for doing that. And that was supposed to be a secret. Don't tell anybody what you work. That's private information. So therefore, people didn't share that information. So therefore, you didn't know. How were you supposed to find out otherwise?
Also, if it was the case, for example, that you could pay a woman, say, 30% less than the man to do the exact same job, companies would exclusively hire women.
No, because companies are also misogynist when it comes to that, and they choose sometimes to not hire women because they're like, oh, well, this woman might get pregnant, so therefore we don't want to have to deal with that. So there are other issues pertaining with the hiring of women that are beyond the pay issue that happen. And there are also issues where people believe, oh, well, we dealt with that in the other video, where people think, oh, well, a woman can't do this job because she's not, she doesn't have the drive to do it. We discussed that in my response to the comment video that I made. If you look up at that video where I responded to a comment in a previous video, where somebody said that men are in higher positions of power because they have drive. And I was like, no, it's not because the men have drive. It's because when women have drive, women are called bossy.
Because what is the primary interest of a business?
Well, the primary idea of a business is to make money, but they're still going to hold on to these antiquated beliefs that are going to say that the best way to make money is to hire the, quote, best people. But if they don't believe that the best people are women, they're not going to hire the women. So, because if they hold these sexist views that the women aren't the best people, then they're not going to hire the best people. And if they feel that the best people aren't women, but they still hire the woman because they feel like they have to hire the woman, they're going to hire the woman for less money because they feel they can get away with it for some reason.
Money.
So, as a business owner or as a corporation, if you can save 30%
By switching to Geico, sorry,
on employment by hiring women only, then you would do it. Do you want?
And I've just explained for many reasons why Brian is again wrong about this issue.